Hello guys, it's Darksigner here from the German Duel Masters channel and welcome back to another video. Today I got a special video for you guys. It's a meta analysis for the first 10 IDC tournaments. As we hit already 10 tournaments so far, we decided it is time to give you an update, just a quick recap from the first 10 tournaments, which decks were played, which ones were the favorites, which decks did well or did not so well, how did they convert into like top 8s, top 4s, and how many wins did they get. Just to give an overall view on the playing field we have in our IDC tournaments. First of all, before we start, we had 136 players attending throughout all 10 tournaments. So we had an average attendance of 13 to 14 people per tournament, which is very good, as our goal was to hit 16 people. And I think in the second half of the 10 IDC tournaments, so from IDC 6 or 7 on, I think we hit that magical number, and we are still growing, and the next milestone is going over 20. And yeah, we hope to build on that, and that after the next meta analysis, the average players will even be more than the 13 to 14 we had, but we're still grateful that so many people joined and attended our tournaments. Out of these 136 players participating, we had 45 different decks, which is very cool. It's just that there's so much variety in this game, and that you can play so many different decks. But for the overall playing field which we had in IDC 10, so the total decks used, I only listed the decks that were played more than 3 times. So if a deck was showing up only once or twice, it's in the other section depicted by Scissoreye. And yeah, we had 28% other decks, so a total number of 37 decks that I did not specifically list, as they were just one-offs or two-offs throughout the first 10 tournaments. And yeah, for the decks listed, let's start with Phorboss. It's the deck that was played the most throughout the tournaments, with 12 total appearances. I myself played it 5 times, so I played it in half of these tournaments, so I contributed to that stat. And yeah, it's a total of 9% of the deck, so nearly every 10th deck played was Phorboss. And the next big player is Fire Nature Rush. It was played 10 times in total, so 7% of the playing field was Fire Nature Rush, which is quite high. I really like the deck as a checking balance for the meta game, so control decks can't just focus on control mirror matches and have to stay on their toes and do something versus Rush. So I think that's a great deck to be around in these tournaments. The third most played deck was Hydro Hurricane, with a total of 9 appearances, also around about 7%. And yeah, Fire Nature Water Aggro, or Rug Aggro, however you want to call it, was also a big player with 8 total appearances. And next up we have Rub Aggro, not Rub Aggro, Rub Midrange, sorry, depicted by Bazaga Zeal Dragon. And yeah, that one was used also 8 times. And then we have Lightwater Elsonius and Fortress Burn with 7 total appearances, 5% of the playing field. And then we have a couple of decks that were used 6 times in total, which is Survivors and Amoloid Mana Burn and Deck Out. And those are 4% of the playing field. And then we have Light Nature Water Aggro, depicted by Craze, and Rub Aggro, depicted by Kukpolon. Those 2 decks were played a total amount of 5 times, which is 4% of the playing field, as well as yeah, the decks before. It's just the rounded percentage. And the last 3 decks you see here are Rob Control depicted by Bolmedius, 5-Civ Control depicted by Miraculous Plague, and Light Fire Nature Aggro depicted by Lucia Lex. Those 3 last decks were played a total amount of 3 times. Like I said in the beginning, I only listed the decks that were played 3 times or more, so these 3 barely made the cut to be noted in this list. And yeah, the rest, like I said, belong in the others category. And now let's move on to the top 8, where we finally can check up on some results and how the decks converted from just participating into top cut. And yeah, you see a slight increase from the top decks. You definitely see why they are at the top of many of the tournaments. Phobos has a whopping 12 for 12 conversion rate, 100%. Every Phobos list played went to top 8. Still very good numbers for Fire Nature Rush with 8 out of 10, so still 80% of Fire Nature Rush decks also made top 8. Then Fire Nature Water Aggro 7 for 8, even a better conversion rate than Fire Nature Rush, though a little less played. And Fortress Burn kind of on the same level as Fire Nature Water Aggro with 6 out of 7 of the decks making top 8. And then we have Light Water Aelzonius, which also has 5 out of 7 conversion rate, which is still very good. And Rob Midrange, still quite respectable with 4 out of 8, 50%. Not the greatest conversion rate though. And funnily enough, Rob Aggro has a better conversion rate because 4 out of 5 of those made it to top 8, so both with 4 top 8 finishes, but Rob Aggro didn't need that many appearances for it. Deck out with 4 out of 6 also very good. And then we have Rob Control here following with 3 out of 4. The thing is that all those 3 top 8 finishes didn't take the deck any further than top 8, so it never made top 4 in IDC history. And then we have the Hydra Hurricane deck, which only has a 3 out of 9 conversion rate, so 3 top 8 finishes, but was used 9 times, so not the greatest conversion rate there. And finally, Survivor also has 3 top 8 appearances. 3 out of 6 of the decks that started made it to top 8. So still quite respectable conversion rate on the level of Rob Midrange. So yeah, quite good there. And then we have many other decks that I didn't list because they are only represented once or twice in top 8. And the other decks were a total of 26%. Yeah, a fourth out of the decks were only in top 8 once or twice, so I didn't list them. A deck I want to talk about though, from looking at the conversion rates, is Merino. As yeah, funnily enough, Merino was only played twice in all 10 IDCs, which is very underrepresented. But those 2 decks both made top 8, so very good conversion rate, but yeah, just too small of a sample size to really say too much about it. But maybe if Merino will be picked up more in the future, maybe that stat can change and Merino can prove itself that it's one of the top decks. So maybe you guys out there who want to join can think about this deck. I just wanted to leave it out there that both Merino pilots made top 8 with their respective appearance. And then let's move on to the top 4, where I slightly modified the charts, because now I also list when a deck is only has only made it twice, not 3+, because Otherwise, only the top 4 decks here, Phorboss, Fortress, Fire Nature Rush and Rub Midrange, would have made it on this list, because those 4 are the only decks that made top 4, so the semifinals or above, more than twice. So we have Phorboss here, which made top 4 8 times, which is the highest number here. So it takes up 25% of the pie chart. Fortress, also quite a good deck here with 4 top 4 finishes, which is equal to 10% of the chart. Also 10% is Fire Nature Rush, which also made top 4 4 times. And then Rub Midrange made it to top 4 3 times. And then Hydro Hurricane, Warlord Elsonius, Survivors, Rub Aggro and Lightwater Nature Aggro all made it twice, which equals 5% of this chart. And then the other 23% were the other decks. And yeah, you can still see where the top decks are, but some of the smaller decks still represented here in this top 4 chart. Now let's move on to the top 2 breakdown, where we have Phorboss again on the top with 6 appearances in the finals, which is yeah, half of the entries made it to the finals. Then we have Fortress with 3 appearances, which is also nearly 50% out of all of its entries, so very impressive there as well. And Fire Nature Rush only twice, so yeah, not the greatest in finals conversion, but still it made top cut very consistently. But as you will see in the following chart, both players that made it to the finals with Fire Nature Rush won respectively. So if Fire Nature Rush manages to go to the finals, it's yeah, having a clear record and not messing up there and winning. Hydro Hurricane, I said that the conversion rate to top 8 was not that great, but the thing is, 2 out of those 9 entries went to the finals, and Hydro Hurricane as well as Fire Nature Rush also has the feat that when it went to the finals, it took down both those finals, so not having a finals loss there. If it reached the finals, it also won. And we have Lightwater Nature Aggro there with 2 entries as well, which is quite good as well. The problem is both times in top 2 Lightwater Nature Aggro lost that match, so no first place finish for that deck. And then we still have the other decks here that only made top 2 once, which is Fire Nature Water or Rug Aggro, Merino Control. Both those made it to the finals only once, but yeah, took down the event. So having the good results, but not more consistently. And then we have stuff like Deck Out, Rub Aggro, which also made it to the finals once. Talking about the finals, here we have the winners pie chart, where I listed down all decks and not made any other category, as it's only 10 decks in total that won, one for every IDC we held. We have very nice even split here with Phorboss, Fire Nature Rush and Hydro Hurricane making up 20% of the pie chart, because they each have 2 IDC wins respectively, and then 4 decks that won the event once, which is Fortress Burn, Fire Nature Water or Rug Aggro, Lightwater Elsonius and Merino. So those 4 decks having 10% out of the last and final pie chart here. And with that, we are at the end of this video. I hope this video was informative enough for you, and you could yeah, get a few things out of it, see which decks were played and which of those advanced the furthest, and which decks did perform. And let me hear what you guys think about this style of video, if we should update more regularly after less IDCs than 10. We just wanted to have a bigger sample size for the first video like this, but if you want more regular updates, feel free to comment this down below, or if you have other questions or suggestions, feel free to leave them there as well. With that, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and see you guys at the next video.